Hi guys, I'm Sarah and today I'm going to show you not only the easiest bread recipe ever, minimal ingredients, no kneading. I make this loaf almost every single day. We've got a family of 5 and we go through bread like you wouldn't believe. So first of all, does making your own bread save you money? For us, yes. I will go through the costings as I'm doing it, and you can work out for you if it's cheaper to make it or buy it. I have done a basic bread video before, a few years back. There's a couple of reasons I'm doing a bit of a remake, and that's because number one, the original recipe, I have tweaked it a little bit over the years, so I'll show you how I have tweaked it. Also, because lately my husband's been told his cholesterol's a bit on the high side, we have to do a few things to address that. One of them is to add more seeds and grains into the diet. So I will show you a few variations to just the standard white loaf of bread, incorporating some seeds and oats. First of all, yeast. There are a lot of wonderful organised people out there who make their own yeast. I've had a serious crack at doing it a few times over the years, and I'm just not, I don't know, I'm not wired that way somehow. But using the store-bought yeast, for me this still works out cheaper than buying a loaf of bread. So it's Breadmaker fast-acting yeast. This stuff has bread improvers in it as well as the yeast, and you get a much faster result. I find if I just use normal yeast, like the one that's just like the little balls without all the floury stuff in there, I am so technical, it still works, but you have to be much more patient, and it has to rise it takes pretty much a whole day. This is super quick, so it suits unorganised people. So I put probably about a tablespoon. I actually use a dessert spoon and just heap it. So a heaped dessert spoon. It doesn't matter if you add a little bit more, a little bit less. I'm not very exact with my measurements, as you will realise in a moment. So to that I've just added 2 cups of warm water. How warm? I just straight from the tap. I let the tap run until it's going as warm as it's going to go. 2 cups of that straight in there with the yeast. As for the flour I use, just Pam's. Either I use Pam's or I use the Market Club flour from the warehouse. Either or works perfectly well. Just plain flour, or you can use high grade flour. Personally, I don't see much of a difference between plain and high grade. Sometimes there is a price difference between plain and high grade flour, in which case I'll buy what's cheaper. So, and also sometimes the warehouse flour is currently cheaper. I think they're currently selling it for $1.90 for 1.5 kg bags. This was just over $2. So we just want 4 cups of flour. We want to add a bit of salt in there. I'm going to be honest, I don't really measure it. However, I will tell you it's about 2 teaspoons that I put in per loaf. So, you know, I just sort of squirt some. I used to put more than that in. I've actually cut that back. But that's it. Seriously, as far as ingredients goes, done. You might need a bit of extra flour, but just give it a mix up. Now, I said there was no kneading required. The only kneading you might want to do is just to make sure all the ingredients are nice and smooth and incorporated properly. But, you know, hands-on time is absolutely minimal with this loaf of bread. It is so super duper simple. I'm just going to get a little bit more flour just so that I can smush it about and make sure it's all incorporated. And then I'm not going to bother grubbying another bowl to let it sit and rise in. I'm just going to keep it in this bowl. Just like that. Throw a tea towel over it. Rising time will depend on how warm the room is. It's reasonably warm in here today. Sometimes I can leave it for only about half an hour and it just rises up really nicely. Sometimes it may need a couple of hours, but generally about an hour, give or take. See how much that's risen up? That's pretty cool. I don't even use a bread tin or anything. I just put it straight on a baking tray. Bit of flour around there just so it's not too sticky to handle. Make sure it's all nice and mixed in. So, I get this and I make it into a slug. Sounds so appealing, doesn't it? Put it in a loaf tin if you want to. You do you. You be fancy if you want to be fancy. And then I just leave it again for about 20 minutes, and it'll just start to rise up slightly, and then we'll bung it in the oven. That's been about 20 minutes. I'm going to put this in the oven. Now, I'm going to break many rules in here, potentially blow your mind, but I'm not even preheating the oven. I often don't, and I for some reason I find it comes out well that way. Don't ask me, but anyway, I put it about in the middle of the oven, maybe on the slightly lower level. Turn the oven up to 200 degrees on bake, set the timer for 30 minutes, and put this in the oven. So it's in the oven for a total of 30 minutes, including preheating time, because I don't bother preheating it because I'm naughty. Okay, another day, another loaf. So I'm going to show you a variation on that standard loaf of bread. Well, a couple of different variations actually, depending on what you want to do. It's just occurred to me though to mention that base recipe, I will put some links down below because I also use that to make ham and cheese knot rolls, and also to make tomato relish twist bread, which is almost sort of like a pull apart. But it's all the same basic bread recipe, so once you know that basic one, there's heaps of different stuff you can do with it. So the next one I'm going to do, because we were told to incorporate a bit more oats and seeds into the diet, so I'm going to start off the same. So, tablespoon of yeast, 2 cups of warm water. Then instead of 4 cups of flour, I'm going to add 3.5 cups of flour. And that half cup of flour, I'm just going to replace with some rolled oats. Now I find by doing that, with the rolled oats in there, you still get, you know, the kid-pleasing, nice, white loaf of bread. You almost wouldn't know, except it's a little bit more substantial, it's a bit more filling, but it's not stodgy, it's not, you know, it doesn't make it really denser or anything, but it is just more filling, it's more substantial, and of course it's better for you. About 2 teaspoons worth of salt as per normal. You can, you know, just cook it up like that, that's all good for a nice oaty loaf of bread. But of course, you can add seeds into this. My favourite things to add in are linseeds, are probably my favourite. I really like putting sunflower seeds. Of course you can add sesame seeds, pumpkin seeds, whatever floats your boat. So, as I say, there's lots of variations. If I'm adding seeds, I'd say about 2 tablespoons worth. Of course you can add seeds, leave out the oats, just add the seeds in with your standard loaf of bread, you know, just have a play. So this is going to be a slightly oaty, linseedy loaf of bread. I'm just rearranging cameras in here because I've just realised the lighting in here is terrible for the overbent shot at the moment. I don't have blinds on this window and the sun's just pouring on in. So anyway, rest of that exactly the same, you know, a little bit more flour over there if it's a bit sticky, just so you can give it a wee mix around with your hands. There we go. Put a tea towel over this, leave it to rise for between half an hour to 2 hours, and I'll see you back here. Okay, so that has just been, look at that, risen up beautifully. Same as last time. Bit of flour over it so it doesn't stick to your hands. Bit of smush about so there's no sort of pockets of flour or anything in there. Hang it on the tray and shape it however you want. Leave that for about 20 minutes, half an hour, and then it can go in the oven. There we go, that's been about 20 minutes. So, same story as yesterday. Chuck it in the oven on bake, 200 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes, and I haven't even bothered preheating it. So, straight in there for half an hour. Okay, I'm back, another day, another loaf. So the loaf I'm going to make this time is as per same sort of recipe except a wholemeal loaf. So good old Pam's wholemeal flour. I'm not sure if the Market Kitchen do wholemeal flour. It does cost a little bit more than white flour, and so of course the price of your loaf will vary depending on how much of this you use. I have been informed you cannot replace all of the white flour in a bread recipe with wholemeal, because white flour really is what holds it together. It's got the decent amount of gluten in it, and that's what you need to hold the loaf together. So you want to replace some but not all of the white flour. So in the recipe that I'm doing, you can probably replace maybe up to 3/4 of it with wholemeal. So in the case of this recipe, I'll start off as per normal. 1 tablespoon of yeast, 2 cups of warm water, and then exactly how wholemeal-y you want this loaf is up to you. As I say, you could have 1 cup of plain flour, 3 cups of wholemeal, 3 cups of plain, 1 cup of wholemeal. I'm going to go 50-50. 2 cups of plain flour and 2 cups of wholemeal flour. Put your salt in there. You can mix that up just as is, just to be fancy. I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of sunflower seeds. Of course, you don't have to do that. Personal preference, you can add some seeds in or just leave it as is. I have not tried adding rolled oats in with the wholemeal recipe. What I would suggest is that if you're going to replace any of the flour with rolled oats, you make sure you at least leave a cup of plain white flour in there. You get what I'm doing here, have a play. There are endless combinations. I have actually been asked as well about storage, how I store the bread. Now, family of 5, we tend to go through the bread. Storage isn't really an issue. I usually just put it in an old bread bag and put it in the fridge. It's good for a day or two as sandwiches. Any longer than that, and it's really just good for toast. If you leave it any longer than that, either toast or you leave it on the bench, let it go really stale, and bread pudding. Or another option, you can grate what's left of the loaf of bread, grate it into breadcrumbs and put them in a bag in the freezer, and you've got instant breadcrumbs there ready for if you want to sprinkle them on your whatever. Grab my tea towel. Okay, I'm back. You guys know the drill by now. That's risen up beautifully. Let's make a slug on a baking tray. that to do its thing. See you back here. There we go. That has risen up slightly. Chuck that in the oven. Same story. 200 degrees Celsius. 30 minutes. Don't preheat it because you're a rebel. And we'll see you back here. There we go, guys. Hopefully that was helpful. Just a few examples of how, one really super simple bread recipe can be adjusted. You can make several different types of loaves with this. They are all easy, they are all yummy. So hit like, leave me a comment down below, hit subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, let me know if you've had a go at this, what your favourite combos are, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.